Hey folks, welcome back. So today we're going over three different DAX functions. So we have calculated column, date diff, and average. But before we proceed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below so that you don't miss any content coming out soon. With that said, let's dive in. So first up, we have calculated column. So calculated columns are essentially custom columns that you create, but only in table view. So you're creating these columns so that you can create DAX expressions nested in them to essentially provide you tailored results based upon the DAX expression that you're writing. So for this one specifically, what we have is a first name and last name combo that we're creating in the calculated column. Now, this may not always apply for the data set that you want, but let's just say, for instance, you want to combine two different columns together and put a space between them. You easily can with this type of expression. Now, it's not limited to just this type of expression, but you can write any sort of DAX within a calculated column and then return your results in that manner as well. Additionally, another benefit is going to be you can use that column that you now created to be injected into any sort of visual or slicer that you want to use for your dashboards. So next up, we have date diff. So this one's going to be kind of unique because what we're doing here is we're going to identify the date band that we're looking at, so a beginning and end date, and we want to see the difference between the two dates by either a day, month, or another value. So we can then do follow-on calculations. So with this one, we're looking at the difference between the begin date and the end date, so I can calculate how many days a member is taking. And the last one we're going to go over is going to be the average DAX statement. So this is actually one of the more simple DAX statements. So we're essentially just taking an average of the days of leave. And this is not going to be something that's really useful when it comes to an individual person, but more so of a organization. So we want to see is how many days on average is a person taking, maybe during the holiday block leave period, right? So during the summer or during the winter months, really on average. Now there's other use cases as well, such as PT scores, weapons qual scores, things of that nature, where you're looking at average values based upon a measurement. Measurement meaning some kind of grade, such as those PT scores. All right, so with that said, that's all we have for the slides. Let's go into Power BI. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into table view, and that's where we're going to create our calculated column. So for this instance, I'm just going to show you an example of what a calculated column can look like. There's numerous variations of them, and we'll actually do it for date diff since that is technically a calculated column as well. But just for the sake of this exercise and the first slide that I showed you, I'm going to give you a simple one. So we'll go ahead and click on new column. Now I'm just going to call this name and rank equals rank. Now as you can see, I just typed in rank and I can simply click up and the tab button and it's going to populate the table and the column reference. So you don't have to actually type in the table from the beginning. You can just type in the value that you're really looking for as well. We're going to say and quotation space, quotation again, and then we want name. We're going to say member name, tab, and then we can now press enter. But what I want to show you is when we bracket our DAX that we're writing, there's a specific way or a recommended way that people usually code. So what you usually want is to have your naming convention up top and then your code at the bottom. So I know we don't have an actual DAX expression here, but if you did, you would know just by looking at the sequence that the first expression that you're seeing here is going to refer to everything following that expression. And we'll get into some more examples as well. But for now, that's kind of the general concept of how you write your DAX expressions. Now, we can see here that the name and rank is now a calculated column that we inserted because we have the rank that we referenced here with the space and then the full name. Now we're going to go ahead and do another calculated column. We're going to say days of absence, say equals, shift enter, tab. We're going to say date diff. So we're going to open up our expression. So now it's asking us for two dates and then an interval. So we're going to want to put the begin date first, comma, and the reason we're putting a comma is because now we can see the format that it's asking us to follow, right? So that we can separate the different reference values that we're looking at. Next, we're going to say end date, comma, and now we have the type of interval. So do we want to see a day count, hours, minutes, months, etc.? We're just going to click on day or type it in. We're going to close that. And another tip before I press enter is if you want to zoom in on the DAX statement, just so it's a little bit easier to read and view, you can simply hold control and just scroll up, and it's automatically going to enlarge that font size. But now we're going to press enter. And now we can see the days of absence are going to be based upon the start and end date of each member's absence that's listed within this sheet. So this date diff column that we just created is actually going to be a calculated column as well. So any columns you really create within table view is going to be considered a calculated column, whereas a custom column, and I know we haven't talked about those yet, but those custom columns are going to be actually created within edit query or where you transform your data, so your Power Query location as well, being the formal term. So now that we have our days of absence, I'm going to go ahead and go to my schema, and I want to make sure that my relationship is set up because I'm going to now filter my data based upon organizational structure as well. So I do have a connection between UIC table and absence analytics, and that's going to be a many to one with the UIC. So we validate that. So now we're just going to insert a slicer. We're just going to put that over here for now. Can minimize this UIC table, and I'm just going to put brigade. And we do have a blank value here intentionally, so I'm going to go ahead and go to filter. I'm going to remove that one. And now we can minimize this because we're not going to use that again. Now we have our slicers for our different brigades. And I'm going to go ahead and now click on the table itself because I want to insert a measure for average in there as well. So that being the last step, we're going to go ahead and create a new measure. We're going to say absence average equals, we're going to say shift enter average, open that up. We're going to say days of absence. So the one we just created, we're actually going to do a measure off of that calculated column. We're going to close that up. We're going to commit that. And now we're going to click on a card. We're just going to put that over here for now. And then we're going to go ahead and click on our measure that we created. And now we can see our measure is a decimal point. And we don't really want a decimal point, right? It's kind of weird. So we're going to go ahead and click on that measure and just change it simply to a whole number. And now we can see the average. So if I want to click on first brigade, second brigade, this one, or any of them, we can now see the average absence days within that organization. And then if I want to add additional slicers, such as battalion or company, I can do that as well, just to see the pinpointed data within that organization. So with that said, that's how calculated columns, date, diff, and average functions work. Hopefully you're able to learn a few things today. Let me know in the comments below. And with that said, thanks for watching.